I didn't expect it to change my life. I didn't expect anything at all, honestly. I was just passing through, carrying the weight of questions I had stopped asking because no one ever had a real answer. I had grown up in a world that told me to be strong, to be independent, to figure things out on my own. And I did. I figured out how to smile when I was breaking. I figured out how to look fine when nothing felt fine. I figured out how to keep moving even when I had no idea where I was going. That was my life, moving without direction, breathing without purpose. And then she sat next to me. I don't remember exactly how the conversation started. I think it was something small, a comment about the weather or maybe about the book I was reading. But within minutes, something was different. She wasn't performing kindness. She wasn't being polite the way people are polite when they want something from you. She was genuinely warm, genuinely there. I could feel it in the way she looked at me, not through me, not past me, at me, like I was a real person worth seeing. I hadn't felt that in a long time. We talked for almost an hour before she mentioned God, and even then it wasn't a lecture, it wasn't a debate. It wasn't that uncomfortable moment I had experienced before when someone religious tried to save me and I had to smile and nod and find an excuse to leave. No. She just said it simply, like she was sharing something precious. She said, I believe there is one God who created all of this. And that belief completely changed how I see myself and everything around me. That was it. One sentence. And something in me cracked open. Not because of the words themselves, but because of the person saying them. Because I could genuinely see that she had something I didn't, a stillness. A kind of peace that didn't look forced or fragile. It looked real. It looked earned. And whatever gave her that peace, I wanted to know about it. I asked her more. She answered gently, without making me feel like I was being tested. She talked about Islam like it was something alive in her, not just a set of rules she followed. She told me that in Islam, you are not just a body trying to survive. You are a soul with a purpose. That every single thing you do, every act of kindness, every moment of patience, every time you choose what is right over what is easy, that it matters. It is seen. It is counted. I had never heard anything like that before. I had been raised to believe that my value was in my productivity, in what I produced, what I achieved, how much I earned, how I looked, what people thought of me. My worth was always tied to something external, something I had to maintain, something that could be taken away. But she was telling me something completely different. She was saying that I had a soul, and that soul was worthy, not because of what it produced, but because of who created it. I cried that night, alone in my room. I don't fully know why. Maybe because I had been carrying so much loneliness for so long, and for the first time I felt like maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. I started reading, slowly at first, with a lot of skepticism. I read about Islam not to believe it, but to understand it, to find the flaws, to confirm what I already assumed, that it was rigid, that it was harsh, that it was built to control people, especially women. That's what I had been told, directly and indirectly, my whole life. But the more I read, the more confused my assumptions became. I found gentleness where I expected hardness. I found depth where I expected emptiness. I found a God who was not distant and cold, but close. Closer, it said, than my own jugular vein. I found a prophet, peace be upon him, who never raised his voice in anger, who smiled at the poorest person with the same warmth as the richest, who bent down to listen to a child, who said that even removing something harmful from a road was an act of charity. I found a faith that didn't just talk about loving people, it had a whole system built around it. A way of living that protected your dignity and the dignity of everyone around you. And slowly, very slowly, the walls I had built started coming down. It wasn't a dramatic moment. There was no lightning, no thunder, no vision in the night. It was quieter than that. One morning I woke up and I just knew. I knew that I believed. I knew that there was one God. I knew that this was true. It was like something that had always been inside me. Finally had a name. I said the Shahada quietly alone before I told anyone. Just me and God. And I felt something I cannot fully describe even now. Like every heavy thing I had been carrying my whole life just lifted. Like I could breathe for the first time in years. Like I had finally come home to a place I had never been before. but somehow always belonged. I called her that same afternoon. I told her what I had done. She was silent for a moment, and then I heard her crying. Not sad crying, the kind of crying that only happens when something beautiful and overwhelming happens at the same time. She said, "I am so happy for you. Welcome." Just that. Welcome. And somehow, in that one word, I felt welcomed. Not just into a religion, but into something much larger, into a community, into a purpose, into a life that finally made sense. I think about her often, about how she never argued with me, about how she never made me feel stupid for not knowing, about how she never pushed, never pressured, never made me feel like a project she was trying to complete. She just was kind. She was patient. She was real. And in being those things, she showed me more about Islam than any book could have in that moment. Because the truth is, I wasn't looking for arguments. I wasn't looking for someone to debate me into a corner and prove that I was wrong. I was looking for something real. I was looking for someone who actually lived what they believed and whose life was better because of it. She was that person. And without knowing it, without planning it, without any grand speech or dramatic moment, she changed my life completely. Now I try to do the same. I don't always get it right. I get nervous. I worry about saying the wrong thing. I worry about pushing people away instead of drawing them closer. But I always come back to what she showed me without ever saying it out loud. That kindness is the first language. That respect opens every door. That when a person feels genuinely seen and valued, their heart opens in ways that no argument ever could. You don't have to convince anyone. You don't have to win. You just have to be real. You just have to care. You just have to treat people the way you would want to be treated if you were the one still searching. Because somewhere out there, someone is carrying the same questions I used to carry. Someone is smiling and pretending to be fine. Someone is moving without direction, breathing without purpose, searching without even knowing what they are searching for. And maybe, just maybe, they are one genuine conversation away from finding it. Be that conversation. Be kind. Be patient. Be real. That is dawah. That is the message. That is Islam. Lived out loud, one human interaction at a time. I didn't find Islam in a book first. I found it in a person. And that is something I will never forget for as long as I live.